Welcome to Reporting Notes. My name is Sekonati Manchansha. I am with Azara Karim, who's done a brilliant story on the oxygen supply to hospitals. We are at Franz Burgers in Plegauri. Please tell us about this contract. IDT previously awarded it for 836 million rands, and then a lot of irregularities and I assume possible corruption was found. The Department of Health took the contract back and has run a different process. What was the outcome?
Yes, so this contract is the custodian of the National Department of Health. And following reporting by Amabungane and Daily Maverick, we uncovered multiple red flags and irregularities in the original contract under the IDT.
Which had been awarded.
Which had been awarded, yes. Independent Development Trust, that's the IDT. It's an implementing agent for government departments to implement
Public
various
service,
infrastructure projects. Yes. Now, following our reporting, Minister of Public Works, Dean McPherson, instituted an investigation, and PwC found and confirmed much of our reporting into the contract.
And the tender was cancelled.
The tender was, the mandate with the IDT was cancelled. And Minister Motsoaledi, the Minister of Health, then transferred this contract to the DBSA.
Yes.
And now that's where we're seeing this, the price disparity that you're speaking about.
So the Development Bank of Southern Africa took over and started a new process and has achieved a massive saving of 500 million rands from the DBSA tender. Am I correct?
But bear in mind, so the original contract was 836 million. DBSA says this new contract is 379 million. Bear in mind, Mazia General Services with on-site gas joint venture still have an active contract with the IDT for the oxygen.
For the same thing.
Yes. And that is 152 million.
But we can talk about a 400 million rand saving.
There is a savings, and that leads questions of how the DG of Health and the now resigned IDT CEO Tebogo Malaka pushed the deal ahead despite the almost billion rand price tag. How did they get to that number, and why did they approve that number when multi-million rands could have been saved in the first place?
Like 500 million rands, that's the thing. And let's take this back. Where does this money come from? I understand it comes from Global Fund, an international donor to the South African government.
Yes, Global Fund is a massive health financier. They fight HIV, AIDS, tuberculosis and malaria. So they are a Geneva-based organization, and they have multiple governments, multiple massive organizations like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation who donate money to the Global Fund, and the Global Fund then give money to different countries to implement these types of projects.
So without making a finding against the IDT officials who ran this tender in the first place, but we can definitely say that this is donated money coming into South Africa to supply oxygen to hospitals, and tenderpreneurs colluding with IDT officials found a way of taking 500 million rands out of this for themselves.
Donor money. Well, I don't have any evidence that money has flowed yet, but it certainly seems like that's the plan, based on what we found in the IDT project. And let me also just mention that when we reported these irregularities, the Global Fund said that they were going to send their own investigators to South Africa to probe what was going on. So that's in addition to McPherson ordering the board to probe, in addition to the PwC probe. Now Global Fund have their own investigators looking, but it's
a year later, am I right?
It's a year and a bit later. That was 2024. And every single time I ask the Global Fund questions about the probe, I'm battered away. And I'm told, go look at our website for any
They are
reports.
not even willing to answer questions about whether they have or have not investigated.
What's the status? What's the deadline?
And that's the Global Fund.
That's the Global Fund. Now, what I found in my investigations as well is that the Global Fund actually have people who are stationed at the Department of Health.
Azara, that leaves a lot to be desired. The fact that the Global Fund itself seems to care less about its own funds being, it would appear, misappropriated. They do almost nothing because that's what it comes to.
But that's what's making me so angry about being battered away, because you'd expect more accountability from them.
We will definitely expect the Global Fund to follow up, and we will ask further questions about their own investigation into this. But let's get back to the tender. Surely the Development Bank of Southern Africa must be patting itself on the back for having achieved this great result, at least in the saving. Am I correct?
Yeah, they could pat themselves in the back for the multi-million rand saving. What I find strange is the reappearance of these companies from the IDT, from the IDT's shortlist to the DBSA's shortlist. And now I see a lot of people asking, so a company can't bid again.
So let's get this right. Those companies that had bid and some of them were awarded an 800 million rands contract at the IDT have now come back to Development Bank of Southern Africa and miraculously slashed 500 million rands out of it and won the tender again, 2 of them.
Yes.
There were 6 shortlisted companies, am I correct?
10 shortlisted companies. 6 of the 10 shortlisted companies also bid for the IDT tender.
Were they willing to tell you what has changed in their pricing between the IDT and DBSA contract?
They said the contract hasn't been awarded yet, so they can't talk about the intricacies of it. And at the same time, what I was actually focusing on was the spec changes of the specification changes of the tender. Differences in the CIDB grading, no CIDB grading in this one, etc. But yes, 6 of the 10 rebid for the DBSA contract, and it could be said that they already had the bids planned and they had an advantage in that sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Azara, you also found what possibly could be collusion among some of the bidders. Am I correct? Do you want to tell us about that?
So I went back to look at. News 24 obtained a massive data drop of IDT procurement documents spanning 2022 to 2024. And I went back to look at those documents because I hadn't actually looked at those companies before in my investigation. I was focusing on Balking and the Mizia and Modipadi Nokaneng, the company connected to the Deputy President's son. And so when I saw these companies pop up again, I went back to look at these companies. And what I found was a possible connection between one of the winning bidders under the DBSA and one of the winning bidders under IDT. A connection between the 2 companies via one official.
Which would give the impression that possibly they are working together but
Yes.
submitting different bids.
That they are possibly presenting themselves, yes, as 2 different companies vying for the same contract.
When in reality they appear not to be
in
different
reality,
companies.
yes, they appear to be linked.
Let's wrap it this way then. So all in all, DBSA has run a contract, a tender, a process, and awarded a contract. When is the oxygen starting to flow to the hospitals?
That's an interesting question because many contractors actually lamented the delivery times on the project. So even though Matsoaledi transferred the mandate from the IDT to DBSA, it seems like the deadline wasn't changed, and it was originally actually April. 2 months from now. And I understand that many contractors said they can't do that, that's impossible, without incurring significant penalties. And you having worked at Eskom and me having investigated Eskom, we know how corruption works through penalties. And they proposed their own deadline. So that will be determined by the IDT.
Am I correct then? We will watch this very closely and see whether the oxygen does flow to the hospitals?
Absolutely. We're going to watch this very closely because it seems like the same game, but same players, but a different game. And News 24 has already submitted PIAs to obtain that bid information.
We will keep an eye on this, and with the support of the subscribers of News 24, You will make it possible. Thank you very much for your support already. There is a secure drop connection. If you have anything that you can help us, any information on this oxygen tender and supply to hospitals. And yes, thank you to Franks and Plegari for the opportunity and for the space here. Keep it locked on news24.com.